So we heard about the two kinds of knowledge, Paroksha Gyan and Aparoksha Gyan, and the ultimate goal of Brahma Jigyasa is to perceive the absolute truth in its personified form directly with your own spiritual senses. That's the actual goal of Brahma Jigyasa. We're not inquiring to have theoretical knowledge of the absolute truth. We are inquiring and approaching Guru to have practical realization. That's why self-realization and God realization, we want both. Because as long as we think that I am this material body and are lost in material life, then we're not going to have God realization or self-realization. So self-realization is a stepping stone to God realization, and they go hand in hand. So now we're going to talk about how to literally become a star. Okay, so anyone who wants to become successful in any way, we're going to give you the best method right here, right now, and it's not going to be behind a paywall. Most times when people give you methods like this, they'll hype it up for like 20-30 minutes, tell you about how great they are, and then they'll say, okay, just go to our site and give us $100, $1,000, and we'll tell you the method. But we're going to do it right here without any paywall, okay? This is the method that's given in the Sastra to how you can become a star in any pursuit you want. And we're going to tell you how you can literally become a star with an interesting story from the Vishnu Puran and the Bhagavat Puran. And most of you will probably recognize this story. This is the story of Dhruva. Dhruva, his name became synonymous with Dhruvapad. It means he achieved the state of becoming the god of all the stars. That's actually what it's described to be. Dhruva is a personality you're going to hear about. He is the North Pole. He is the pole star, right? He achieved that planet of the pole star, and he became the king of that. And so all of the universal, all the stars, the billions of stars, they pivot around him. So by his process of sadhana, spiritual practice, he became the star of all stars, the god of all the stars, actually. It's described to be the god of all the stars. So we're going to talk to you about that process that he did and his story. You guys know who Dhruva is, probably, but for those who don't, we'll do it very quickly, okay? Dhruva is the son of Maharaj Uttanapad. Uttanapad is the son of Swayambhuva Manu. Swayambhuva Manu is the son of Brahma. Brahma is the son of Vishnu. So Dhruva was the great grandson of Vishnu. Great-great-grandson of Vishnu, okay? Vishnu, from Vishnu's navel, in the lotus stem, Brahma was born. Then Brahma's first son is Swayambhuva Manu, and he is described to be the first man. Manu is the root of the word man. And he was the Vedic version of even before Adam. He was the first man. And actually Brahma created Manu and his wife, and then from them the progeny that populated the world originated. So Dhruva was very close to the beginning of the creation. That's why he was born in what's called Satya Yuga, the first age, the age of truth. And he had a brother. His brother is named Uttam, his elder brother. His elder brother was the son of favorite wife of the king, whose name was Suruchi, Ruchi means taste. She always gave the king whatever he desired, indulging his senses, whereas the other wife was named Suniti, which means she was more into following scriptural rules and regulations. So she was less in favor, because the king also represents the unbridled senses in this sense. They're always trying to enjoy. So just very quick summary. Dhruva, because he was the younger son, so the elder son was naturally given more privileges. And so the elder son would sit on the lap of his father, and he would give him so much love and affection. And Dhruva, being a little kid, he was like 4 or 5 at the time, he also wanted to sit on his father's lap. When he tried to climb up on his father's lap, then the stepmother, you could say, do you say the stepmother? His elder brother's mother.
His mother's co-wife?
Yeah, the mother's co-wife. She immediately began to abuse him, saying, oh, you're not qualified to sit. My son, he's the eldest son, and unless you're born from my womb, You cannot sit on the lap of your father. So he was very insulted. It's described to be he felt like a snake that's been stepped on. Snakes are generally naturally very angry, but you step on a snake, becomes very angry. So he became very angry and he began to hiss and like shake as if like he was a stepped on snake. So later he ran away from that place and his mother consoled him. So his mother told him, his mother naturally already was following scriptural life practice, sadhana. So she advised him that he was thinking that, the natural, when you're spited, the natural thing is like, I'm going to get revenge or I'm going to show them. So he was thinking that, I'm going to become, at that time a desire came in his heart. He said, I want to become a king or a ruler greater than my grandfather. Like what to speak of my father, my grandfather. His grandfather is Brahma, right? No, his grandfather is Swayambhuva Manu, who was the king of the whole universe at that time. So he wanted to have a kingdom even greater than his. So that was his initial vasana came, his desire came. So he was talking about this with his mother. His mother said, look, if you want to achieve anything you really desire, the best thing to do is to worship Vishnu. And there's a sloka in the Bhagavatam, 2.3.10. We should learn this sloka if we don't know it. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.10. And it says, Akamo sarva kamo va. This is the method, everybody, for those who are watching. Akamo sarva kamo va. Whether you have no desires, akamo. Kamo is desire. Whether you have no desires or sarva kamo. Whether you have all desires. Moksha kama. If you want liberation or all material sovereignty of the world or material pleasures. Udharati tivrena bhakti yogena. By intense practice of bhakti yoga. The process of connecting yourself to the absolute truth through devotion and through meditation or mantra, then tivrena bhakti yogana yajeta purusha puram. You can achieve whatever you desire. So even if you have material desires, the best method is worshipping the Lord, Vishnu. So she told this to Dhruva, and Dhruva became determined to follow this sadhana. So Dhruva, even though he was still a young boy, in Satya Yuga you're able to perform very difficult austerities because your life air, your prana, resides in your bones. So you don't even have to eat food. Like in Kali Yuga, without eating, it's very hard to survive. And it's very difficult to meditate as you could in Satya Yuga. So he became determined to do this, and he decided he was going to go into the forest and do it. So he went into the forest. Now, Narad Rishi approached him, seeing that he tried to dissuade him. He said, no, why are you trying to do this? You're just a little kid. Don't, just take it easy. Play with your friends. In the future you can do it. But Dhruva was so determined. Dhruva actually means determination. That's one of the definitions of Dhruva. Dhruva Smriti means one-pointed determination and focus. So he's like the manifest example of this sloka, Akamo Sarva Kamava. Tivrena Bhakti Yogena. His process, his practice was so intense, so strong, that very quickly he achieved his desired result. So Narad came as his guru. Guru is the father. And he gave him this mantra once he saw that Dhruva was completely determined. So Dhruva received the mantra from Lord Narad Rishi, which was, the mantra was, some places said, Om Namo Narayanaya or Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. In the Satya Yuga, these are some of the main mantras for achieving spiritual, you can say the spiritual goal of life. So in the forest, he began chanting this mantra, and it's described that he didn't do anything else. Dhruva Smriti, he was completely one-pointed. After, it's described in the beginning, he was still like eating a little bit, eating fruits in the forest. But he said that even that became a distraction for him, because you're taking jad, ras, material things, and it ends up distracting the mind. So he even gave up that. Then he started taking dry leaves. He stopped taking the dry leaves. He was taking water from the river. He even gave up drinking water. Eventually, he did this for 6 months. So each month he would reduce one thing. Eventually, in the last month, he stopped breathing entirely. And like we were doing our own breathing. All he was doing was standing in the forest, the whole day just absorbed in his meditation. This is called Tivrena Bhakti Yogena. Our acharyas say, look, Dhruva Maharaj, within 6 months, he realized the absolute truth. And then he achieved aparoksha gyan. So he heard from Narad and his mother, paroksha gyan, and he applied it, and then he achieved aparoksha gyan. So his sadhana was so strong that it's described all the demigods in the heavens began to be unable to breathe. His power of his sadhana was so strong that because he was not breathing, it was like the whole universe could not breathe. And so immediately Vishnu had to appear to satisfy him. Now, the thing is, when he was doing this sadhana, originally his intention was that he wanted to be the greatest king ever. He wanted to be the ruler of the entire universe. Not as a demonic way, but just in spite for his mother's co-wife, right? And his elder brother. And he wanted to have he was just a kid. You got to give him some slack also. He's just a 5-year-old kid, right? But his sadhana was so strong, within 6 months, God appeared before him. Vishnu with 4 arms appeared coming on Garuda from Vaikuntha. And Dhruva's eyes was closed. So he was not immediately opening his eyes. But internally, he perceived Paramatma in the heart. It's described, Paramatma dwells within the heart of all living entities. And the Upanishads describe that the Jiva and Paramatma are like 2 birds sitting on a tree. There's 2 different Upanishads that talk about this example. And this is one of the evidences that the soul and God are distinct. Because it's described in the Upanishads, Shrutis, that the bird of the self is sitting on one branch and the bird, that Paramatma, God, is another branch. The soul is tasting the fruits of the tree, of this fruit of reactions of karma work, while Paramatma is the witness. He's witnessing the activities. And to achieve happiness, when the soul turns to his friend, the Paramatma, then he can achieve actual true happiness and peace. As long as he's just trying to take the fruits of his action, he becomes restless. So Dhruva, he saw Paramatma in the heart, and then Paramatma indicated, now you should open your eyes and see me. He appeared right before him. So Dhruva opened his eyes, and he saw Aparoksha Gyan, he saw directly Lord Vishnu. At that point, he became stunned in transcendental bliss. Because the Lord is naturally so beautiful, so glorious, that seeing him, Dhruva became stunned. At that point, he wanted to offer prayers, but he was completely stunned. So Vishnu touched him on the cheek with his conch shell. And the conch shell represents Sarasvati, or goddess Lakshmi, and also divine speech. So at that point, he began to pray to the Lord with what's called the Dhruva Stuti, 12 verses. And in those verses, he talks about ultimately that the path of material development and trying to strive for fruitive desires is ultimately very insignificant compared to the bliss of Ananda, Premananda, the bliss of love in that divine relationship with God. There's 3 kinds of happiness. So Dhruva, he wanted material happiness, Jadananda, and it's considered to be very low. Higher than that is Swargananda, happiness achieved in heaven. Higher than that is Brahmananda, but the highest is Sevananda or Premananda. And compared to the Premananda or Sevananda, material happiness is very insignificant. So Dhruva said a famous verse where he said that I was seeking after a broken piece of glass, and in doing so, I lost the chance for a priceless diamond. Because Vishnu told him, when you were doing your sadhana, you had a desire to be the king of the world. So he said, Dhruva said, I just want to be with you, Lord, in your abode. He said, no, you had this desire, so I must fulfill that desire. I am Sarva there's a story of Nityo Nityanam, Ekanastitanam, Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kamam. Krishna said, I must fulfill your desire that you worship me with. Yeyatamang prapadyante. As you approach me, I must reward you. So this is a lesson for us that in bhakti we should think, what do we want? And try to follow in a way that, if we serve with material desires, we may get a material result, even from Guru. So Dhruva said, I was looking after this little insignificant thing, and yet I lost the chance for this priceless gem. And so Vishnu said, no problem. He said for 33,000 celestial years, he became the ruler of Dhruva Loka. So at that point, Vishnu said, I want to give you an abode just as good as my own Vaikuntha. So Dhruva Loka, that planet, it's described to be like a spiritual planet within the material universe. So there, it's even when the cosmic dissolution occurs at the end of the day of Lord Brahma, Dhruva Loka, his own abode remains. And the Saptarshis, the 7 rishis, they are all the rulers of the 7 main planets that are actually the Big Dipper. If you look at the Big Dipper, those are each one of the planets of the 7 sages. And they recommended Vishnu that you should give him the Dhruva Loka, meaning give him the pole star and name it Dhruva Loka. So name that planet in which all the other stars and planets revolve around after this little boy. And so what happened is that he became the king in that realm for the rest of his life. But then afterwards, he achieved that Dhruvaloka. And if you look at the Big Dipper, which is very interesting, if you want to see where the North Star is, the North Pole, look at the end of the ladle part of the Big Dipper, right? You have the handle, right? And then you have the ladle part, the scoop. If you go to the star from the end of that and go in a line, then it reaches the North Pole star. And you can see the Big Dipper is always rotating around the North Pole, which is where Dhruva resides to this day. So the 7 sages gave him that position because, why did they give him that? Divrena Bhakti Yogena. His performance was so strong. That's why it's called Dhruva Smriti. You really want to achieve spiritual benefit in your life, try to follow the example of Dhruva as much as you can in your life. Now, one last thing. Dhruva, there's a stuti called Dhruva Pad. The verse is given by Dhruva. And in that, Dhruva Maharaj says, if you want real peace in your life, you should give up attachment to material desires, renounce those, and when you renounce the material side, then you can gain the transcendental side, and that is so much superior. And Dhruva said, I know this from my own experience. When I saw God, I had to take the material thing. And he prayed at that point, I don't want anything. I only want to be with you. But he said, no, you must take that. So ultimately, Krishna says in the Gita also, how to achieve happiness? Tyagach Shanti Nirantaram. Prabhuji quotes this many times. He said, if you're attached to even in the temple, you're attached to how things are, you're attached to this, attached to that, oh, it's not going how I want it to be. All those attachments cause you anxiety and stress and discomfort. But if you renounce these desires and attachments, then you can get peace. Krishna says that how can you get happiness without peace, internal peace? He said if you want happiness, internal peace is the method. And without tyag, you cannot get that shanti. So without shanti, you cannot get peace. So Dhruva Maharaj recommends that if you want ultimate Om Shanti Shanti Om, then renounce material desires and follow Bhakti Yoga only for the goal of loving relationship with that Supreme Lord Krishna. And in that, everything else becomes automatically fulfilled. So we'll stop here today. Vanchakalpatrubhasya kripa sindhubhya patitanang pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. Dhruva Maharaj ki jai.